Your brain doesn't know the difference between worry, anxiety, depression, and whether you have pain, restless legs, nutritional deficiency, hormone imbalances, inflammation, infection. It doesn't know the difference. It's going to react the same. And I see oftentimes people's cortisol goes up at night. And it's going to rev you up. It's going to raise blood sugar, and the blood sugar swings really, really disrupt sleep. And that's why there was just a recent study that the standard American diet or the Western diet is very bad for sleep because the foods are ultra processed.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Sleep Like a Boss podcast. I'm super excited to welcome Lorraine Maita today. We have a triple board certified physician on board today, and we're going to talk with her all about sleep when it comes to behavior, when it comes to hormones, when it comes to fun things like caffeine and alcohol, and everything we can do and should maybe not do in order to improve our sleep. So welcome to the show, Lorraine. It's a pleasure having you.
I'm so happy to be here because sleep is so important. I do anti-aging medicine, and there's nothing better than a good night's sleep. You function better in every aspect of your life.
Don't you? I think it's really this, to me, it's my job, right? But I think it's the foundation, right? If we don't get sleep right, so many of the other things, being it healing processes in the body, being it things we want to do, just don't work.
Exactly.
Great.
Exactly.
So that's something
Yeah.
you talk about with your patients too. Is that a point that you address?
Always, always, always. What's your mood? What's your energy? What's your sleep? What's your weight? And, where we have an epidemic of sleeplessness in our country, and probably yours as well. And I don't know about worldwide, but it's a big problem.
And what do you see? What do you think are what do you see in your patients? What are mistakes that your clients are making? Like, how are they self-sabotaging when it comes to their sleep, basically?
Well, a lot of people know about, excuse me, allergies. They sleep in a dark, quiet room, and they might snack before bedtime, they might snack late. Some start working, and the blue light from the computers, the tablets, or the phones stops the production of melatonin that that helps you go to sleep. They might exercise too late, or they might exercise too hard, or they start doing emails and get hooked. They do work and they get hooked. And then the mind goes, and then they're angry and they're like, I got to do this. I have to finish this. You need a little bit of buffer time. I say you can't stop a train going full speed that easily, right? If you start to slow down, then the train will stop on its own, right? And when you try to get it to stop, it'll stop more easily. But if you go full speed and then you lay in bed, the mind is going to go, the body is all pumped up with adrenaline. So there has to be a wind down routine. And my husband and I fight about this all the time. In the evening, I like the light slower. He puts every light in the house. You have to prepare your body for sleep. Lower the lights, tone down the activity. When you're reading or watching TV, don't watch anything that's that gripping, because my friend had me watching Ozark, and it was so disturbing. It kept me awake. So that I know I can't watch that kind of stuff, right? Maybe I can watch it very early and then have a way to wind down. But these are the mistakes they make. They read something that I can't put this book down. I can't stop this movie. I have to finish this work. And you can't stop a train at full speed.
Yeah, so that is basically, and I fully agree with you, that's like the behavioral part, right? Like, what do we do every day that actually either supports that sleep or what actually hinders it, right? And what happens in the body? You were just mentioning adrenaline. What happens in the body why we say, as people who support sleep, don't do these things, because we're not like, we don't want to be there like that, right? Like we have a reason
Right.
why we recommend this.
Yeah. Adrenaline it's gonna hype you up. It's gonna give you more energy to fight or flee. And now you're not trying to fight or flee now. You're trying to go to sleep. Then it triggers cortisol, and cortisol is the stress hormone. And I tell people stress isn't just worry. It's distress. Your brain doesn't know the difference between worry, anxiety, depression, and whether you have pain, restless legs, nutritional deficiency, hormone imbalances, inflammation, infection. It doesn't know the difference. It's going to react the same. And I see oftentimes people's cortisol goes up at night. And it's going to rev you up. It's going to raise blood sugar, and the blood sugar swings really, really disrupt sleep. And that's why there was just a recent study that the standard American diet or the Western diet is very bad for sleep because the foods are ultra processed. You get the blood sugar swings. Saturated fats that are used for ultra processed foods they're all fake fats. They're not the fats that are going to be healthy for you. That type of diet actually disrupts sleep. And the better diet for sleep would be, plenty of fruits, fresh fruits and vegetables, lean protein, eating early, and having a healthy, nutritious meal at least 2-3 hours before you go to bed. So what you eat really makes a difference with sleep. And that was eye-opening. It was a brand new study that just came out.
Yeah, and I think often people, and we'll go into the drinks, because I was mentioning we were going to talk about caffeine and alcohol in a minute, but it's really, right? It's the foods too that people don't know often, that if you're somebody who has those midnight, like 3 a.m. wakings, check your blood sugar, assess what you've eaten, right? Like, how is your diet?
Exactly.
Because like I'm pretty dialed in with my sleep. But it's like, even sometimes I do that. I wake up at 3 in the morning and I'm hungry. And then I already know, you know what, dinner was too small, right? And it's like, yeah, my blood sugar just went. But it shouldn't happen regularly. And people really need to, I agree, need to learn about this, that nutrition is really so important for, yes, for health, for longevity, for weight, for everything, but for sleep for sure too. Absolutely.
Yeah, people don't make that connection. Some know about alcohol, some know about caffeine, but not many people know that these ultra processed foods are really bad for us, and they destroy your metabolic health. Your immune system gets kicked off, your nervous system gets kicked off, and so does your hormone system. And it doesn't work properly. When you don't give it the right fuel, it's not going to run. Your body, brain, mind, body, spirit are not going to work properly.
Yeah, and I think because you just used the word hormone, and I think what I'm finding with my clients, I don't know if you see that also in patients, when we talk about hormones, people often think estrogen, progesterone. And that's fine, but they are hormones. There's sex hormones, but there's a lot of other hormones, and you just mentioned a few, right? We were talking about cortisol, we were talking about melatonin, we were talking about insulin. There's so many in the body that are affected, and it's often not just the replacing of maybe estrogen, maybe progesterone, maybe testosterone, whatever it might be. Like, we have to get these other ones. We have to get insulin and cortisol and adrenaline in check as well.
That's where you start.
Yes.
I start I start my patients there. I don't automatically, you come in, you're having hot flashes, night sweats, here's hormones, goodbye. You have to prepare the body for it. And you have to make sure you take care of the fundamentals first, because cortisol is sort of your master hormone, and that's going to regulate the others. So if cortisol is high, your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHA are going to be lower. And it's like a seesaw. Everything has to be in balance. Too much or too little of any hormone is no good.
Absolutely.
And I tell people, what you eat, what you drink, how much you sleep, how much you exercise, the stress you're under, the toxins you're exposed to, all affect your hormones. So it's a lifestyle.
Do you see, because I find a lot of people are very stressed, right? We live in a very hustle culture environment still. We go, go, go all day. We're on devices. We just have
Yeah.
input from every which direction all the time. Do you see people who are, do you see people who sometimes come with sleep disorders, like being it restless leg, being it somebody who has sleep
Yes.
apnea? Do you see those? Do you have patients with that?
Yes, I have it all.
Okay.
I've been practicing for 40 years. I have it all, you know. So you have to, what I do is we get to the root cause. And, I have a whole process that I take people through so that I don't have to do every test under the sun and give them every supplement under the sun, because then it's no different than Western medicine where, a pill for an ill, so in functional medicine, some people do a supplement for an ill. No, no, no. Let's get to the root cause. Let's figure out why. Because it's like if you're sitting on a tack and you have pain and you take something for the pain, you're still sitting on the tack. So you need to take that out and you need to get to the root cause. So restless legs is a problem. And sometimes it's associated with low ferritin, low iron. And I see that a lot in women. And I also see that a lot in mostly women. And it's not just women who are having their periods. When you're stressed, you're not absorbing. And it takes a lot to absorb iron. You need stomach acid, you need vitamin C, you need to, what I call choose, chew, and chill. Relax when you eat, chew thoroughly, chill out. Don't do your phone and your computer while you're shoving food into your mouth, because you're either in fight or flight or rest, digest, reproduce, regenerate, repair. So one or the other. Just take a deep breath, eat slowly, savor it, and then move on to your stuff.
Yeah, and that's such a basic thing, right? And I see that too a lot. It's really this back to the basics and stop being distracted. Focus on one thing at a time and do that one right. And really, I think this slowing down that we all just
Yeah.
don't do everything on the go. It's just we do everything better if we don't, because we just really put focus on each of those individual things, I think.
Yeah. Because then your cortisol, adrenaline, insulin, they're all going. And I sort of start some of my talks. How many people do you know that are feeling fat, flabby, flaky, foggy, fatigued, and forgetful? And everybody chuckles and raises their hand.
Me, yeah.
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 And it's a lot of it has to do with the cortisol, that whole dance between cortisol, insulin, blood sugar, and it disrupts sleep. And that's really getting that right, getting the basics right. Then you can get into the fancier stuff.
Absolutely. Let's talk about one more of the basics or two. Let's talk about caffeine and alcohol. And people are going to be like, oh, do we need to talk about this again? And honestly, yes, I think we do, because I still see it in the majority of the people that it's misunderstood. And partially because it might be helping them feeling better to certain degrees. But we need to understand, I think, what's happening behind the scenes when we put these things in our body.
Sure. Caffeine blocks adenosine, which is a neurotransmitter that keeps you, helps you sleep. So some people, and they don't know it, are slow metabolizers, and caffeine can stay in your system for even 24, 48 hours, so that you have one cup and then later you have another cup and you have it early, but it's building up in your system. And I tell people, I ask them to do a 2-week trial off caffeine, and they go, well, wean off slowly. But I've had people who've had terrible anxiety and terrible sleep disorders. And when they did that, it was like, wow, wow, I didn't even know I felt this way, because they're having caffeine in the morning to wake up and wake their brain up because they can't function without it. And then they're having alcohol to fall asleep. So caffeine, the slow metabolizers, it'll just keep building up. And even if you could some days switch to green tea, that, especially like the matcha green tea that has L-theanine gives you calm focus. It just gives your body a break. It gives your liver a break, because if you're a slow metabolizer, you're never getting rid of it. And there's always an edge. We did an experiment in my department. I had an all-woman department, and we were all like super high productive, go, go, go. And we used to drink a lot of coffee because my German receptionist made the best coffee ever. And even when I wasn't drinking coffee, she said, Dr. Maida, you must drink this coffee. And it was so good. We were all drinking it. And then we did an experiment. And you know what? Everybody was calmer. Nobody snapped. Nobody fought. People were in a much better focused, calm state. And I can't tell you how many other patients, when I took them off caffeine, they had the sleep of their life and they functioned much better. So I'm not saying never have caffeine, but you have to know whether you're a fast or slow metabolizer, and give your body a break from it.
I
It
agree.
can,
And it's the what I see a lot with clients who have anxiety, like you mentioned with the anxiety. If you have anxiety, like I find caffeine is not your friend.
no, no. And it's shown to increase the time for you to fall asleep. You have less sleep duration, you have more light sleep and less deep sleep. And deep sleep is where all the magic happens. That cleans your brain, gets rid of all the toxins in your brain. It cleans out those tau proteins that cause Alzheimer's. It's where you regenerate and repair, and your hormones kick into gear. And it will initially decrease REM sleep, which is important for learning and memory. But then you get a rebound, and then the REM sleep, when you get like, oh my God, the dreams are so vivid, you feel like you're awake and you've just been fighting all night, or, and you wake up just exhausted because of the REM sleep. The dreams are so vivid. Well, that can be from caffeine.
Yes, but that will also balance itself out. So if somebody, right, if somebody gets like scared from that, that will go. That will, if you
Yeah,
figure
yeah,
your caffeine tolerance out over time, that
yeah,
will go. Your body's kind of also trying to catch up a little, and then you'll get to good dreaming, because we also want that dreaming. We want the
yes.
memory consolidation, the emotional regulation, like we want all that. But it's, yes, that rebound can be a bit of a
Yeah, but the
scary thing
thing is,
sometimes.
if you start weaning slowly and then you're reasonable in
Yeah.
your caffeine intake, I still have a cup of coffee a day,
Yeah.
you know?
Tastes good, eh?
Yeah, it tastes good. It's a ritual.
Yeah.
I enjoy it, but it doesn't interrupt my sleep, and I'm not an anxious person. So I was when when I was a resident, I drank 10 cups a day. Weaning off that was unbelievable. I mean, but it was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah. And how about that? Because we often have this, it's almost like this vicious cycle effect. And I see that with women often, that they, in the mornings, like you described, they need the coffee to get going because their whole cortisol rhythm is messed up and we don't have
Yeah.
enough oomph in the system to get that going. Then at night, because they've been go, 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 caffeinating, sugaring, whatever all day, they're like, okay, now the kids are in bed. Now I need my glass of wine, A, because I deserve it because the day was so hard, and
Yes.
B, because it helps me wind down.
Yeah. And that's a double-edged sword also. And I'm not saying never have a glass of wine or alcohol, but it also interferes with sleep. It'll initially act as a sedative, and as your body metabolizes and the levels get lower, it's a stimulant. So oftentimes people will wake up in the middle of the night with dry mouth, with palpitations. They're edgy, and then your blood sugar is all over the place with alcohol. It also increases the risk of sleep apnea and snoring, and that interferes with sleep, and it interferes with deep sleep, memory, learning, and that also interferes with REM sleep. You can also have the same kind of REM issues
Yes.
with alcohol, where you can sleep deep, or feel like you've sleep deep, but then the next day, even though you slept, you're tired. You're kind of hungover in this la la land, and that's what stimulates, oh, I need caffeine to perk myself up. And it's a vicious cycle. So the only way to break the cycle, it's a little tough love, is, I tell people to decrease gradually, and then it changes their world. They didn't realize they could function so much better without it.
Yes, and I think it's really this, like, I think it's everybody's personal, like, it's your personal choice to say, do I consume alcohol at all or not, right? Like, that's everybody's call. and having maybe the celebratory, like it's your birthday, it's your partner's birthday, you're going out for something, you want to, yeah. But I think also if we need that to wind down, it's really like look at your day, look at what's going on in your
Yeah,
life from a stress perspective, from a nutritional perspective, from an hydration perspective. Like, what are all the factors that might be causing you to feel this wired up at night that you can't, that you
yeah.
need that, right? Like, what would be something else that we could do instead of taking that Merlot? Maybe there's where the
Yeah,
shark.
yeah. Well, there's deep breathing, there's listening to soothing music. I like to do some gentle yoga stretches with some breathing, and listen to music. There's so many different ways that you can wind down. And I also love heart math. I don't know if you're familiar with
Mhm,
that, but
mhm.
it's a wonderful technique that calms the nervous system down, and it was used. I mean, I've been around a long time, so I used heart math when it was on cassette tapes.
Oh, wow.
How ancient is that? It was used for CEOs and for elite athletes to get them in the zone. And it was shown to decrease anxiety and depression, increase sleep, increase performance, increase mental capacity, innovation, creativity. It's very, very calming. It gets calming because it gets you in a state of flow, and it balances the sympathetic fight or flight nervous system with the parasympathetic rest, digest, repair, regenerate nervous system. And all it is some deep, slow breathing, focusing on your heart and focusing on something, someplace, someone that you're deeply grateful for. Because when you're in gratitude, your whole nervous system changes. It is such a beautiful thing. And I do it in between every patient, and you can do it like that. Once you practice it, it could take less than a minute, and it really resets you. So have a reset there and find something that you like.
Yeah, and I think heart math is something that it takes a little bit of practice, but then it does really work, right? And
Oh,
anybody, you don't even need to buy the device. You don't need to
no.
look at the in and out of the breathing app thing. You just really sit and focus on, like you said, something that you're grateful for. And sometimes it even works like your perfect day on the beach.
Yeah.
Right? That wonderful coffee you had with your best friend, that great conversation you had, and then you just think about it and breathe in and out slowly, and you're already getting the body down into that resting.
Yeah. It's a wonderful thing.
It
So
absolutely.
you can exercise, but it could be very gentle. It has to be very gentle. And that's why I like some yoga stretches, because it releases all the tension. So, and with the yoga, you combine the breathing. That's what works for me, but everybody has to choose what works for them.
And I always say, give it a try. The first thing you try, like we always like often give ideas, right? Like I personally, I'm somebody who loves yoga nidra, which is just a body scanning
Yeah.
technique, because I like people to walk me through something sometimes. And there's lots of things on YouTube, and I often send clients in. I say, try it out. Just give it a, what do we have to lose, right? It's
Yeah.
yes, maybe you don't like the voice of the person that I recommend, then try something else. There's like hundreds of thousands out there, and there's so many different modalities. And I think heart math is a great one. Yoga nidra, yoga, and even if you don't know how to start, YouTube is a great source where people who are trained show you what to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And once you've built that habit, I can do this myself. I know the stretches and I'm going through that routine, and it just the body knowing that that routine is coming is already, oh yeah.
Yeah, I offer a little buffet of different techniques
Yeah.
for people to try, and they dabble. Those that are willing will dabble, and then they'll hit upon something. I like this, but you need different tools for different situations.
Yes.
Because I always ask people, how do you relax? Oh, I read, or I do yoga, or I go exercise, or I go for a walk. But in the heat of the moment, listen, I'm sitting at a computer most of the day. I can't do that, right? So that's why I chose the heart math, or just deep, slow belly breathing. It's so relaxing. It's really so relaxing. So, experiment. There are so many techniques and so many different things that you could try.
Yes. These are great tips. Can we shift topics a little? I want
Yes.
to I want to talk a little bit more about hormones. And I know you are because you're in the anti-aging, longevity, that's hormones is probably, I'm making this assumption now, hormones is probably a part of that potentially for some people. And hormones are getting a lot of attention right now, I find, in the overall world, a lot more than they did. They had a bit of a bad rep for a
Yeah,
while, and now that's narrative is shifting. People are questioning studies that have been done in the past, and there's a lot more people, and not just in the functional space, also doctors speaking out about using hormones. Hormone replacement for women, perimenopause, menopause, potentially. Is that something that you use, and is that something that you see help with sleep?
absolutely. So hormones play a huge role in our overall health. And I tell people, if you're missing insulin, you're going to give someone insulin. If
Yeah.
you're missing thyroid, you're going to give somebody thyroid. But to deprive a man or a woman going through hormonal changes when it's affecting the quality of their life and their overall health is really not the best thing. And yes, they debunked that study done, I call it ancient times, back in 2002. People are still making decisions based on that study, but they did a better statistical analysis on it, and they realized that estrogen alone does not cause breast cancer. If you give estrogen through the skin, it does not cause clots, because oral estrogen causes clots, and that breaks off and you can get a heart attack and stroke. So they stopped that study because of the increased risk of heart attack and stroke. And they found that the control group was actually a lower rate of breast cancer than the general population, and that the group that they studied that was a little higher than the control group was actually the same as the general population. So there really wasn't an increased risk. And the latest studies that actually use bioidentical hormones, which are the same identical structure as the hormones in your body, are safer. So progestins, which the press will call progesterone, it's not progesterone. If it has anything in front of it or behind it in the name, oh, I take my Joxy progesterone, that's not progesterone. That's not bioidentical progesterone. And I say, is a trans fat the same as an omega-3 fat? No. Is a fake hormone that's been altered the same as your hormones? No, it will give you some of the effects of the hormones, but it will give you other effects that you don't want. So what they found with bioidentical progesterone is it's safer. There was one study that said it didn't increase the risk of cancer. There's another study that said the first 5 years, there's no increased risk. There's another study that said maybe there's a slight increased risk, different, but compared to synthetic, no increased risk. So synthetic progestins make your coronary arteries spasm, meaning they make it smaller so the blood doesn't get through to the arteries. Regular natural progesterone relaxes them. Synthetic can cause gallbladder disorders. Bioidentical doesn't. It's the synthetic can cause clots. Bioidentical doesn't cause clots. So what type you take, when you take it, and the way you give it, like, oral progesterone is the best thing for sleep. It works on the GABA receptor. That's the break in your brain to say, okay, I can turn off now. And people get the best sleep of their life with progesterone.
And I still think, and I'm going to ask you this now, because I don't prescribe or anything. I do look at a Dutch test with my clients. So we see metabolites of estrogen. We do see a little bit of progesterone. We see where they metabolize it, which way. And I have quite a few clients who actually come to me already, and they're not sleeping. That's why they're coming on progesterone and even estrogen. Like a lot of them are already on hormone replacement through their provider, and they're still not sleeping. And there's other things going on, but sometimes, and that's a question, can it also be a matter of dosing?
Yes. Everything has to be in balance. Estrogen's the gas pedal, progesterone is the brake. So I tell people I use my hands. I'm Italian, when you're balanced, you feel good. If estrogen is slightly higher than progesterone, estrogen could be high, it could be normal, it could be low. You still have more gas than brake. And you get those symptoms of estrogen dominance, which is Same as PMS. PMS, perimenopause, two sides of the same coin. And that's when progesterone is not right. You're not ovulating and it's problematic. So you'll get anxiety, irritability, impatience, insomnia, growth of the breast, cyst of the breast, tender breasts, fluid retention, bleeding, spotting, weight gain. You're on the hormones, but that's really where the one size fits all doesn't fit all.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to know why you're estrogen dominant. Are you eliminating? Are you moving your bowels? Do you have a gallbladder? Are you digesting? Do you have a good diet that your microbiome is helping you get rid of stuff? Or do you have a microbiome that's sabotaging you and taking off those toxic metabolites, allowing you to reabsorb them? So we have to look at the whole person. And the idea is to get the estrogen balanced with the progesterone, because that's why they don't sleep. That's why they don't sleep, because they're not balanced. And that's
Yes.
exactly what happens in PMS, perimenopause, postpartum, postmenopause, because balance is just as important as dose.
Yes, and I'm so fascinated because I am in certain groups where there's multiple like perimenopause people, like health experts supporting, and there's doctors also in there, nurses, health practitioners, and just like the general women are in there and are asking questions and they're looking for help sometimes, and then they come back and they get blood work or Dutch tests back from providers, functional or non-functional, so like Western medicine or functional, and then there's always the discussion, no, you're estrogen dominant, you cannot go on hormone replacement. It makes me so mad because it's exactly what you said. We're going to be estrogen dominant as soon as I don't want to put an age on it, but anywhere between 35 and 45, we're likely going to get into a state of estrogen dominance because our progesterone's coming down naturally.
Yes.
Right. And even if estrogen is just a tiny bit, because I'm close to menopause, I've lost almost all I'm still estrogen dominant because there is, but they're teeny tiny amounts, but the balance isn't right.
It bothers me. That's why I want to be on these podcasts, because you know what? Women can take it into their own hands and fix that, right? Even without a prescription, you can do a lot to help yourself. And it really irks me when people just either throw a steady dose of hormones at someone and doesn't look at how they metabolize. At least, you look at the Dutch test, you're looking at their nutrition, you're looking at their elimination and their digestion and their liver and how they're processing it. But yes, estrogen dominance is rampant because we're also exposed to over 200 chemicals a day, and they act like estrogen. So it's like, do you want the boogeyman ringing your bell or the milk, the mailman, right? So if you have some chemical that's going on your estrogen receptor, you're not going to get the nice effects of estrogen. You're going to get the very bad effects. That's really where they call them obesogens. You get fat, flabby, flaky, foggy, fatigued, and forgetful. You just don't feel right, and you're always hyped up, and I know so many women, they're just struggling. And that's why I do detox with everyone,
And if I may ask, because when we in the functional world, for instance, or if we talk detox, you are not like, that's a different story of what a lot of people think a detox is. Like, this is not your spring cleanse.
Not going to have diarrhea. You're not going to, no, everybody does it a little bit differently. And I have my process because I do it based on the, over 40 years of experience. So I've evolved and I've learned different, and I try to do mine much quicker than most, because when people hear, oh, I have to do this for a month and I have to eliminate these foods for a month. No, let's do it quick and dirty. After 2 weeks, I would say the first week's a little hard. Yes. And people don't like me. I say, stick with it. By the second week, they love me, and then they feel good to great. And if they don't feel good to great, there's something more, like metals or mold or, Lyme or some, dysbiosis, meaning bad bacteria in their gut, or there's something underlying. But my detox is, let's give you herbs to get your liver to function better, take away chemicals as much as possible, eliminate the foods that are more likely to stimulate your immune system, and, eat clean, and if you want to lose weight, no grains, no beans, no, and if you don't want to lose weight, you can have gluten-free grains. And we eliminate, the major ones: gluten, dairy, corn, eggs, soy,
Oy.
peanuts, sugar. Sugar is a big one. And I do a midlife makeover and I ask people to stop sugar. Within 2 weeks, they feel better. My rings
Yeah.
fit. I can get into my clothing. So it doesn't have to be awful. And most people who resist it say, thank God you told me this is the best thing I ever did. 2 weeks, anybody can do it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I use a shake to heal the gut, calm the immune system down, and I use herbs to detoxify the liver. You take away some of the chemicals and the immunogenic, meaning foods that stimulate your immune system. You're a different person. You're a different
Body is
person.
so smart. I find the body so brilliant, right? It figures it out. It can figure it out very quickly if we take away what's stressing it and if we give it a bit of some love and attention and support.
Yes, and then you don't have to do 8 million tests, and you don't have to be on so many supplements that you don't even know why you're on them anymore, because what's left over, then that's what we go
Yeah.
for. And now your body is ready for hormones. Your
Yeah.
body can handle it. They can take it. They can process it better. So it's so important. Just like you prepare the soil for your garden to grow, you need to prepare your whole mind, body, spirit for changing your life for the better.
Yes, and I think I just want to loop that back to what you said earlier. Um, that hormones are great to make us feel better and not just manage symptoms, but they also have physiological benefits in the system. However, it's not the first step
Yeah,
because just the progesterone, the lack of thereof, or just throwing an oral progesterone in there to get you sleeping isn't the big picture, and potentially it's not going to help you sleep well for long, at least from my experience. Sometimes it's like, oh no, now we need to increase like then we start playing with increasing doses, and it's like, no, because
no,
this is not a progesterone issue anymore. Let's
yeah,
look at everything we've talked about on this episode before.
yeah.
What are things that you're doing that are either supporting your ability to fall asleep or what's hindering them?
It's no different than just giving a sleeping pill. I
Yeah.
know some people use progesterone as a sleeping pill. That's not what it's for. It's to balance estrogen, because wherever you have an estrogen receptor, you have a progesterone receptor, and progesterone is calming. You need both. You need balance of everything, because estrogen stimulates the immune system. So if you're estrogen dominant, the interesting thing is that why women get more autoimmune is because we have more antibodies, and we have more antibodies because of the X chromosome and because of estrogen. And the time that you develop autoimmune disorders is the 4 Ps: puberty, postpartum, perimenopause, and postmenopause, because that's when you're estrogen dominant and you need the progesterone to calm the immune system down. And that's when it doesn't always work properly. It's easy to make estrogen. You make it in your fat and adrenal glands, even when you're menopausal. And actually, again, too much estrogen, too little estrogen, you can't sleep. Too much estrogen, too little estrogen, you gain weight. We as women, we can, but we need to be balanced. And we're good at this. We're multitaskers. We can see the big picture. Men are very linear. They're very different, and they're easier in many ways in terms of hormone replacement, but we have many moving parts.
Yes, and just to sum that up, that moving part and the cycling and all those things, the hormone we talked about in the beginning, cortisol, to me, and I don't know how, to me, it is one of the drivers. It's one of the main drivers. If we
Yes.
do not get that under control, and the fact that you're not sleeping, there is something off in your body, whether it's any of these, but likely cortisol is very much part of your equation. And that has, if it's gone on for too long, and I'm speaking from my own experience, it just takes, it triggers all these other processes that are going to go in the wrong direction, right?
Exactly. And that's why I always focus on that. Every person who comes through my doors gets a cortisol test. They get a detox. and whatever's left, we do extensive blood tests, and I'll recommend things based on their history. And then we see what happens after they go through that. And then we know what we're dealing with, right? You take away that layer of bad habits and things that are mucking up the system. And the transformations are amazing. I mean, that's why people read the testimonials on my website, because they say, well, it won't work for me. Well, it's worked for thousands and thousands of people, thousands. And it can, and it's easier than you think. You eat paleo, because people say, what do I eat? You eat chicken, fish, organic beef, and fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds. There's plenty of things you can eat. Focus on what you can, not what you can't. Because our diets of these processed foods are just wreaking havoc, not just with our sleep, but with our metabolic functions. Why do we have diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol?
And even I think mental health, right? So much anxiety, depression. I think if we all go back to basics, simple foods, healthy, simple things, a lot of that will resolve.
Yeah. And it's not that difficult. It really isn't.
No, I agree. This was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I want to get the word out, because people need to know they can have the courage and the confidence to take charge of their own health. You have to be your own medical detective. And, you have to be able to ask the right questions of your practitioners and go with knowledge, because the practitioner is not going to take care of all those pieces. You have to do that, but you have to know, you need to be guided and know what to do, how to do it, and where are the resources to do it. So, that's why we exist. That's why we exist, to take people by the hand, pick them up, and lead the way.
Absolutely. If people want to learn more, if people want to work with you, where should they come? What should they follow?
Okay, I have two websites, because one website, I'm a doctor. That's Vibrance for Life. And I can see people only in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Florida. So that's when I can do one-on-one work with you and prescribe. If that's not an option for you, because people come and they visit their relatives, they'll do anything. They go to New York City, they take a vacation. But anyway, if that's not in your wheelhouse, I have the Feel Good Again Institute, and you have to put the and institute, otherwise you get a drug rehab center. But that's where I offer coaching and many online do-it-yourself courses, supported courses. And, if you're part of my community, every month I open it up for any kind of questions. And whether you're part of my community and whether you took a course or not, you can ask questions. And, I want to get the word out. I can't stand seeing people suffer. I think we need more joy in our life, and more play, and more fun. And you can't do that unless you're feeling good.
Yes, and I will drop all the links in the show notes for sure, so it's easy for people to find. And I think you also have a hormone quiz, right?
Yes, you can take the hormone quiz. It's on both websites, and you'll figure out which hormone is the one to work on first.
That's exciting. That is exciting. So I'll drop that for sure as well. So you guys go check that out, because that's always fun, and I love quizzes. And yeah, it was wonderful having you. Thank you so, so much for your time, and thank you for all the work that you do.
Well, thank you. You got to get people sleeping like a boss.
Yes, I do. And everybody, we hope you had a wonderful time with this episode. Share it for people who you think this would be relevant to, because we're hoping to get the word out. And like you said, we're just trying to guide people through the process and help them get better. That's what we're here for. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in the next episode. See you soon.
Bye.